Let's all go around the table and say what we're thankful for. We're thankful for you, and this show is for you. The state of Kansas will not be helping Syrian refugees resettle. Governor Sam Brownback issued an executive order on the 16th that prevents state funds from being used to help Syrian refugees. The order has been called discriminatory by the American Civil Liberties Union of Kansas. The executive order was issued to protect the people of Kansas from the threat of possible terrorist activity. Kansas is just one of 27 states to issue similar orders. The KSU Veteran Student Organization hosted a candlelight vigil Monday evening for the victims of all the recent terrorist attacks. About 30 students lit candles and observed a moment of silence for the victims of the November 13th attacks in Paris, which took 129 lives and injured more than 350 people.
So I thought it was important to make our voice heard. We're college students. We're going to be the leaders of tomorrow, and doing so, we show possibly the world that here in Kansas, however far away we are, we support them and we're here for them. And maybe one family will get solace in the fact that we did this tonight. One family who lost somebody they love will get solace in that, and that's what's important.
Along with the attacks in Beirut and Baghdad last week, France fell victim to terrorists on November 15th. Ashlyn Turner is sitting down with K-State student who is currently in France to give us an inside look at what is going on in Paris.
I'm here with William Nager, a senior in political science who is currently studying abroad in Paris. Obviously, the world is still reeling from this tragedy, but how has this country around you changed in just the last couple of days?
In the day right after the attack, many people were staying home. The streets were not as crowded as usual. But in the days following that, I think I've seen more resistance, more people making a point to go out to cafes and to restaurants, and a point to continue living their lives as they would, to kind of defy the actions of the people who did this.
Absolutely. I've got to ask, how long after the attacks occurred did your mom or your family call you?
I was actually not out whenever it occurred. I was in, and so I was just on my computer and saw it on the news, and I was able to contact my family and say, I don't know what's happening, but I'm safe, and they hadn't even heard about anything yet.
Well, that's good that you were able to get in touch with them just so they know that you were okay.
Mm-hmm.
Since you aren't a French citizen, do you feel removed from this tragedy?
No, there have been different ceremonies that I've been going to. Like, there was a mass held at Notre Dame that I went and I stood in the square with many other people, and not all the victims were French. And I think it's more about coming together and mourning the loss of those who were the victims, and as well as moving forward. And so I think it's less about where you're from and more about coming together and supporting each other.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You were probably in elementary school when the Twin Towers fell on 9/11. Have the French reacted in the same way that Americans did when we were attacked on that day?
I was pretty young whenever 9/11 happened, and I remember bits and pieces of it, but being so young, I remember that I didn't understand what was happening. And so now I think since I'm so much older and have learned about the acts of 9/11 and everything, I have so much more background and deeper understanding of what's happening. But I would say that the French are kind of unsure of what to do next. They want to move on, but it's such a odd situation that they're not exactly sure where to go from here.
Yeah, I can understand that completely. It's such a difficult position to be put in. You just don't really know where to go. here in the US, more than half of the states have shut down their borders to Syrian refugees. Governor Sam Brownback, which is the Kansas governor, signed the executive order into law just on the 15th, which was Monday. As an American, would you side with those 27 states, or would you oppose shutting down the refugees coming here?
I would oppose that because I think that if we act through emotions, through fear and anger, then I think that there's the danger of possibly acting in a way that we're not considering all of the consequences. And also, I'm afraid that possibly the people who were behind the attacks will see these actions and other actions that will be taken by many leaders in the world in response, and see that we're responding in a certain way and know that their actions can force us to act in a certain way. And I think that refusing the refugees might have been one of their goals. And if so, it might encourage further attacks, in my opinion. And I think it's important to remember that the people who attacked Paris are the people who these Syrian refugees are running from.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for talking with us, William. We'll send it back to Daniela in the studio.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Ashlyn, for that report. A Wamego man and a Topeka man are both dead following an accident in the Cayman Islands. Dr. Matt Betancourt of Wamego and Douglas Carney of Topeka were killed when a van rolled over in a construction site. Betancourt was not immediately found at the crash site due to being pinned underneath the van. Another man was injured in the accident. The second annual Reading is Power event happened over the weekend. The K-State Mortar Board, in conjunction with the Manhattan Public Library, made it possible for local everyday superheroes like nurses, firemen, athletes, and even Willie to attend this event. Classic Dr. Seuss lines, among other memorable tales, were being read by heroic community members to young students. Local children also got the opportunity to read books, make superhero crafts, and even got a chance to watch and participate in an improv performance.
One of the things they learn at K-State is how to give back to the community. And the students, I think, know that part of a college education is community service and finding ways to apply their education in ways that are practically matter. So I think this is a great example of students giving back to the community.
And the K-State Mortar Board plans to have more Reading is Power events in the years to come. The Junction City Police Department is asking you to be aware of a scam that has been hitting the area. Local businesses have recently been contacted by people claiming to represent the city of Junction City. The businesses were told by scammers that they had an outstanding balance on their water account, and they were later asked to wire that money to an account in order to pay the bill. Police would like to remind residents that no one from the city of Junction City will ever ask for payments using a wire transfer. So if you receive one of these calls, write down as much information as you can and call the Junction City Police Department at 785-762-5912. One professor is trying to help make Manhattan a leader in the pet food industry. Research Associate Professor Greg Aldrich recently hosted an event for nearly 200 members of the pet food industry. Aldrich and his students used the event to show their new pet treat product. Aldrich has his sights set on building an innovation center which would include leading-edge equipment and advanced research. He believes that this would help make Kansas State a leader in the field. And if you want to keep up with what's happening here in the Flint Hills, don't forget to check our Facebook page and click on that little like button.
Powerful ideas are sparked by a natural curiosity. It could begin with a single seed or a brilliant ray of light. At Kansas State University, it begins with research that advances the world, where science and creativity meet. At Kansas State University, powerful ideas begin with you.
What makes undergraduates stay in school, thrive, and graduate? K-State professor Greg Eislein knows. Classes that create a learning community. Professors who stir curiosity. Involve students in their own education. Motivate them to look at things in new and surprising ways. That's why he's Carnegie Case Kansas Professor of the Year. That's the Wildcat Way.
A Wildcat legacy from generation to generation.
Where my grandfather went to school.
Where my mother went to school.
It's a legacy scholarship program started by the K-State Alumni Association, specifically for the children and grandchildren of K-State alumni. When you buy a K-State license plate, you fund legacy scholarships.
Show your purple pride and be a part of the Wildcat legacy.
From the Little Apple to the Big Apple, through internships, networking, and great professors, Lauren Bishop landed the job of her dreams, working with entertainers and celebrities for a PR firm in New York City. From backstage at the 25th anniversary of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, watching Mick Jagger and Bono rock, to London for the launch of a new luxury hotel, Lauren Bishop is living her dream. That's the Wildcat Way.
One of the best things about the holidays is all of the amazing food. Lacey Siefkin is here to show us just how to make a cake that your family will eat right up.
My name is Lacey Siefkin, and we will be making a snickerdoodle cake. Basically cinnamon and sugar, but we're going to add some cinnamon buttercream frosting on top. It's a simple recipe. Most of the ingredients you already have in your kitchen. Be careful though. If baked correctly, your friends and families will flock to your kitchen, especially if they love snickerdoodles. So let's get started. All right, we're gonna preheat the oven to 350 degrees.
Now you're gonna mix all your dry ingredients together in a small bowl. 1 1/4 cups of flour, 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and then 2 1/2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Whisk them together and set aside for later. Time to mix things up. You're going to add 2 eggs to your mixing bowl, followed by 1 cup of sugar. At a low speed, mix your eggs and sugar together for about 2 minutes. Now add 1 stick of butter. Now make sure the butter has softened before adding to your bowl. It will make mixing a lot easier. Then add 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Remember the bowl from earlier? Well, now we're going to add those dry ingredients to the mixing bowl. Most of the time I don't worry about overmixing. I like to mix as much as a DJ. But for this recipe, it's important to not overmix, just until the ingredients are blended. The reason why you don't want to overmix is because this will make your cake dry. Alright, one last ingredient. Add 1/2 cup of sour cream to your mixing bowl and blend it into your mix. Now take your cake pan and spray it with some non-stick cooking spray. I'm using a spring foam pan, but that isn't a requirement. Just use an 8 or 9 inch cake pan. I'm cooking 2 cakes. Once poured into your cake pan, set into your preheated oven for 20 to 25 minutes, at least until you can pull a knife clean through the center. Frosting time! Like I do with most recipes, I cut the frosting ingredients in half. I don't need a whole bunch left over. Take another stick of butter, also softened, and mix it until fluffy. Then add 2 1/2 cups of powdered sugar, 1 tablespoon of 1/2 and 1/2 or milk, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and vanilla extract. Mix it all together until smooth. After taking the cake out of the oven, be sure to let it cool down before frosting it. This cake is definitely worth the dirty dishes and is perfect for any occasion. Enjoy! This is Lacey Siefkin with MHK All Day.
That is really good.
Thanks, Lacey. If you'd like to know how to make Lacey's Snickerdoodle cake, just head on over to the MHK All Day Facebook page. As the weather gets colder, that means the middle of football season is upon us. To tell us more about where the Wildcats sit in the Big 12 standings, I am now joined by sports anchor Tanner Barth.
Thank you, Daniela. Right now, K-State football is currently on a 6-game losing streak. The Wildcats sit in 9th place, just a half game ahead of the Kansas Jayhawks in the latest Big 12 standings. One of those losses, though, came last Saturday down in Lubbock at the hands of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Let's take a look.
This is Burns on the return. Morgan Burns. They do an outstanding job on kickoff returns.
That return by Morgan Burns tied the game up at 7, with Texas Tech leading 35-21 to start the third quarter. K-State trimmed the Tech lead to 7 off of Joe Huebner's 11th rushing touchdown on the season. The Cats trailing by 24 in the fourth quarter until Joe Huebner connects back of the end zone. Freshman Dominique Keith for the score. Following 14 unanswered points by the Wildcats, K-State had one last hope in this game with yet another onside kick, but this rugby-style onside kick by Jack Hentel a little too hard. Texas Tech able to recover, sealing the deal for the Red Raiders. They went on to beat K-State by a final score of 59-44. K-State with the loss falls to 3-6 overall, now 0-6 in Big 12 play. They will look to bounce back this weekend as they welcome in the 3-7 Iowa State Cyclones to Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Kickoff from Manhattan, Kansas, set for 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time. You can catch this nationally televised game on Fox Sports 1. Switching out the turf for the hardwood now. Both Kansas State men's and women's basketball teams have began their regular season. The men's team opened the season at home on Friday against Maryland Eastern Shore Hawks. The first basket of the season comes from the freshman Dean Wade off the lob from a one-dude. That's his first collegiate basket as a Wildcat. The offense was on fire early in this one. A one-dude once again finds the big man down low and one lay-in for DJ Johnson. But right here, how about the Canadian senior getting in on the scoring mix? As we see Justin Edwards drain a 3 NBA range to beat the first half buzzer. The Wildcats would continue the offensive onslaught. They go on to win 80-52, move to 1-0 on the season. And what a big night from number 25, a double-double for Wesley Wundu. He finishes with 20 points and 10 boards for K-State. The men's team did have their second home game of the season Monday night at Bramlage Coliseum against the Columbia Lions. This game was much closer, though, at home, but nonetheless, K-State still hang on to beat the Columbia Lions 81-71 to move to 2-0 on the season. Big night from the freshman, though, Dean Wade. He finished with a career-high 17 points and 2 rebounds. The Wildcats will host South Dakota coming up on Friday. The women's team was also in action on Monday night, a part of the doubleheader. K-State looking to improve to 2-0 on the season. Welcomed in Abilene Christian Wildcats to Manhattan. This game was close early on, though, as the Wildcats held only a 37-25 lead at half. But that would go on to outscore Abilene Christian 39-20 in the second half en route to a 76-45 win. Kansas State, big night from Brianna Lewis as she finishes the game with 19 points, 5 boards, and also 5 blocks on the night. The Wildcats will now host South Dakota on Thursday before heading across the country to face the number 1 ranked UConn Huskies on Monday. And Kansas State men's and women's basketball as well as football weren't the only Wildcat sport teams in action last weekend. The K-State equestrian team got back on the winning track on Friday afternoon as they knocked off the 6th-ranked TCU Horned Frogs. It was a beautiful day for riding out at Timber Creek Stables as the Cats went on to win the close match 10-9. They'll be back in action this weekend as they hit the road to face both Texas A&M and Delaware State. But Daniela, it never really gets old being able to get all your fill of K-State sports this time of the year. It's starting to get a little colder out, so if you don't want to go outside and play sports, sit on your couch and watch some great K-State sports this weekend and for the rest of the fall for the most part.
I definitely agree, Tanner. There's nothing better than sitting at home and enjoying a nice slice of pizza while you're tuned in to K-State games. Thanks, Tanner. Be sure to follow MHK All Day and MHK All Day Sports on Twitter for the latest about what's happening in the Flint Hills.
Around here, school pride isn't just some slogan on a t-shirt. It's the spirit that comes from understanding we are stronger when we're together. That's the essence of K-State Proud, a nationally recognized student-led fundraising campaign. In just 6 years, K-State Proud has helped raise more than $500,000 to help students who need it most and appreciate it best. Think of it as Philanthropy 101. K-State Proud. It's just one more way the Kansas State family treats one another, well, like family. Where there's a Wildcat, there's a way.
Kenya, Africa. A baby elephant is trapped in a waterhole. Researchers rush to the rescue, and a 400-pound baby elephant and its agitated, dangerous mother are finally reunited. One of those researchers is K-State alumnus Mark Sowers. While at K-State, he used telemetry to study bison on the Konza Prairie Biological Station, a skill he now uses to study and help elephants, his lifelong dream. That's the Wildcat way.
Nearly 150 years ago, the first native limestone was carved into the campus of Kansas State University. Since that time, K-State has known what it takes to rise to the challenge. Now, we're challenging ourselves to become a top 50 public research university by the year 2025. To reach that status, our research dollars, endowment, career award winners, and patents are growing to match our internationally recognized programs and research. K-State 2025 is more than a challenge. It's a commitment we'll keep. Because where there's a wildcat, there's a way.
MHK All Day, I'm Danielle Leone. A new study has found that we are going to need to change our water use habits soon. K-State Civil Engineering professor Dave Stewart looked at the water levels in the High Plains Aquifer. The aquifer provides nearly 30% of the water for agriculture use in the U.S., and recently it hit its peak.
As we project out what happens over the future or into the future, it basically, the amount of depletion that we have, the amount of water that comes out of the aquifer by having the water table go lower, will decrease by about half over the course of the next 100 years.
To Texas, but Stewart found that Texas, New Mexico, and Kansas are among the biggest water users. Stewart isn't pessimistic when it comes to the future of the aquifer and says that we have time to make changes in our water usage. Nothing says the holidays quite like shopping. Manhattan Town Center will be opening early for Black Friday, so you can get your shopping done ahead of time this year. The center says it will open at 6 a.m. and at 11 a.m. kids will be able to visit Santa Claus in the center court. Thanksgiving is one of the biggest holidays for travel here in the U.S., and with so many people in the road and in the airports, Lindsay Ford found out exactly what we can do to make our holiday travel better.
During this time of year, everyone is traveling, whether it's by car or by plane. So here are some tips to keep you safe during this holiday season.
The first one is to plan your route. You want to check travel routes for construction delays and to make sure your usual stops are open and accessible. Inspect your vehicle, check tire pressure and tread wear, clean your headlights, change the oil, and make sure fluids are filled to the appropriate level. Know how to reach roadside help. I mean, our number is 800 AAA HELP. You can also reach it through mobile devices, AAA Mobile, which is a downloadable application, and that's on AAA.com too.
For those that are flying during this holiday season, your travel tips are a little bit different.
So for travel tips, I would personally recommend showing up to the airport at least an hour and a half early. Another thing, whenever you are packing your bag, try to pack a little light, because since it is getting colder, people tend to pack heavier with jeans, coats, jackets, and sweaters. Usually they have overweight charges when they do pack heavier bags. On top of that, I would personally recommend having a carry-on bag. If you have a carry-on bag, it gives you versatility when it comes to traveling, because cancellations do happen due to weather, which is something else that needs to be understood.
Every year, holiday decorations hurt people and cause damage when they aren't put up correctly. For those of us who will be decorating after Thanksgiving, here are a few tips to help you save. Never use candles on or near a tree. Make sure to use light sets that have been tested for safety, and please don't use more than 3 standard light sets per extension cord. Finally, turn off all of your Christmas tree lights before you go to sleep. Remember, we'd love to see your pictures, so share your Black Friday view or your Thanksgiving feast with us. All you have to do is add the hashtag MHK All Day wherever you go and post.
Calls him the explainer. His students call him amazing. Over 20 million YouTube views show that Associate Anthropology Professor Michael Wesch is transforming higher education. Translated to more than 20 languages and counting, Professor Wesch's teachings still share one common voice: passion. And whether you're learning live or online, that passion is contagious. And that passion is one of the leading reasons Kansas State University is first among U.S. public research universities in producing U.S. Case Carnegie Professors of the Year. Where there's a wildcat, there's a way.
K-State Student Radio brings every game to K-State fans on the Wildcat 91.9.
Line's going to take a pitch out to the right. Hubert dices his way up and into the end zone for the Wildcat touchdown. Takes the snap. He's going to roll out. He's going to throw deep over the middle of the field for Tyler Lockett. Catches it. 15-10, 5, touchdown, Kansas State.
For all of your K-State sports coverage, tune into the Wildcat 91.9.
It was the day the music nearly died. Little remained after a 1968 fire roared through Nichols Hall at Kansas State University, reducing the music department to rubble. But before the embers of that terrible fire had even died, a new fire blazed within every member of the Wildcat Band. Using the only sheet music that survived the fire, the band pumped up the next home crowd with a rousing rendition of Wabash Cannonball. To this day, the jingle, the rumble, and the roar still fire up the fans and brings them to their feet. Where there's a Wildcat, there's a way.
Some people in the Flint Hills just don't get enough credit, so Ashlyn Turner is here to tell us who they are.
Thanks, Daniela. Kansas State's architecture program is once again ranked top in the nation. Design Intelligence ranked K-State's Master of Landscape Architecture as the best program in the Midwest and the 6th best in the nation. The ranking is created by surveying employees about which graduates were the best prepared for success in the industry. This is the 12th straight year that Kansas State has ranked a top ranking by Design Intelligence. Meadowlark Hills Retirement Community is being recognized by the Kansas Department for Aging and Disability Services. Meadowlark was given the Promoting Excellence Alternative in Kansas, or PEAK, award on the 17th. Award is given out to homes that make large advances to person-centered care and resident choice staff, empowerment, home environment, and life activities. This is the 5th time Meadowlark Hills has been given the PEAK Award. A group of devoted to helping Paraguayan students come to K-State and getting some recognition. K-State's Officer of International Program is giving Co-Mite Paraguay Kansas organizations the 2015 Innovative Educator of the Year Award. The award recognizes an outstanding organization that goes above and beyond promoting international opportunities for K-State. CPK has helped to raise the number of students from Paraguay from 12 to 65 in the last 5 years. All right, we're going to head back to those in the studio.
Thanks, Ashlyn. Right now I'm joined with Tanner, who's going to help me give a shout out to the community calendar. The Flint Hills Volunteer Center is having its annual Festival of Trees to raise money for its local programs. There's also a senior tea and a Polar Express Kids Adventure on the 18th. And the festival wraps up with a gala on the 20th.
The Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Resource Center here at K-State will honor Transgender Day of Remembrance on the 19th at 7 p.m. in the K-State Alumni Center Ballroom. World-renowned transgender advocate Teresa Sparks will speak during the ceremony to remember transgender individuals taken from our community by violence.
And on the 21st, the Manhattan Public Library is having a teen holiday Pinterest party between 1 and 3 in the afternoon. Don't forget to register ahead of time to make supplies. Thanks for joining us here at MHK All Day. We'll see you next week.